A paralyzed Marine had given up hope, until his former German Shepherd partner did something no one expected. The wind outside howled through the pine trees, like a ghost searching for something it had long lost. The cabin creaked beneath the weight of another bitter winter. Night snow pressing against the windows, frost tightening its grip on the world. Inside, Logan Pierce sat in silence, his wheelchair angled toward the empty fireplace, the flames long dead. Like the man who sat watching them at 44, Logan was a ghost of who he once had been. Once a United States Marine, disciplined, fearless, respected. Now he was a man cut in half, paralyzed from the waist down, after an improvised explosive device shattered his spine and his future in one blink of flame. Years of therapy, surgeries, false hope, and the hollow sound of "you're lucky to be alive" had left him with nothing but bitterness and dust. He had pushed everyone away, friends, family, fellow veterans. They had stopped calling. He had stopped caring. His world had shrunk to the size of his cabin, and even that felt too large tonight. The pain in his chest was worse than usual, both physical and otherwise. His hand hovered over the small panel on the arm of his wheelchair where the backup battery for his circulatory support system blinked steadily. One button, that was all it would take. Silence, rest, no more pretending, no more waiting for hope that would never come. He reached for it. Then came the sound, a thud on the porch. Not wind, not branches. Logan's brows furrowed. Another thump, then claws scraping against wood. Something pacing just outside the door. He wheeled himself slowly toward it, not out of curiosity, but irritation. Probably a coyote, he muttered. He opened the door. Snow rushed in on a gust of wind, but Logan did not notice the cold. Standing in front of him, coated in frost, was a German Shepherd, tall, powerful, soaked to the bone, breathing hard but standing tall, unmoving. The dog stared straight into Logan's eyes, and something deep inside him cracked. It could not be. No, it was impossible, but he would have known that stare anywhere. Logan's hand trembled. Hawk the dog took one step forward, tail low, ears alert. Then, without hesitation, Hawk pressed his forehead gently against Logan's thigh, right above the faded combat patch sewn onto the edge of his flannel shirt. For the first time in years, Logan could not breathe. His hand found Hawk's fur, still damp and cold, but alive, real, and suddenly that blinking light on his chair's arm no longer mattered. Tears rolled down Logan's face without sound. "You came back," he whispered, and Hawk looked up, eyes sharp and steady, as if to say, "I never left." In the silence that followed, a broken man and a lost soldier were whole again, for the mission was not over. Not yet. They had named him Subject 107A when he arrived at the rescue facility, skinny, scarred, and silent. The intake form noted his breed, age, and condition: a German Shepherd, approximately 10 years old, limping on his right hind leg. No collar, no tags, but what truly stood out was the microchip embedded between his shoulders. The technician scanned it out of habit, not expecting much, but when the screen blinked and loaded military data, her heart skipped a beat. The file read, K9, Hawk, United States Marine Corps, retired. The chip was old, buried under years of forgotten files, but the handler's name was still attached: Staff Sergeant Logan Pierce. The rescue coordinator made the call the next day. The number rang twice, then went to voicemail. She left a message, polite and direct, explaining they had found a military working dog with his name on file and asked if he would be willing to talk. Logan never called back. 3 days later, Hawk was gone. The fence had been chewed and dug under. Cameras showed him slipping away in the darkness, limping but determined, carrying nothing but instinct and memory. They searched, posted flyers, contacted shelters in the area, but Hawk was moving with the precision of someone on a mission. He had disappeared into the hills 27 miles away in the middle of a snowstorm he appeared on Logan's porch. Logan did not ask how he did not need to. This was not a coincidence. This was Hawk. The last time they had seen each other was on a dusty road in Afghanistan. Logan had been the team leader and Hawk had been more than just a K-9 unit. He was family on their final mission. An improvised explosive device had gone off beneath Logan's transport. The vehicle flipped and the world exploded in noise and fire. It was Hawk who had dragged him out despite a bleeding flank and a cracked rib cage. Hawk had gripped Logan's vest and pulled him to safety when medics arrived. Hawk was still crouched over Logan's chest, teeth bared, refusing to let anyone near until they showed their credentials. After that mission, Logan was medically discharged. Hawk, too injured to return to duty, was retired. Paperwork was filed to keep them together, but it got lost like many things in the system. Logan thought Hawk had been adopted out or worse, but now here he was. Hawk did not bark. He did not whine or lick. He simply lay down beside Logan's wheelchair and stayed. Their eyes locked, forward, muscles still. He did not ask for anything. He was just there. Later that night, Logan sat in his chair, staring at the fire. Hawk had helped him find the strength to light. The cabin was quiet except for the soft sound of breathing, his and Hawk's now in rhythm. Again Logan reached down his hand, trembling, and touched the top of Hawk's head. Hawk didn't move. Then slowly he turned his head, looked into Logan's eyes, and lifted his front paw. He placed it gently on Logan's thigh. It was not random. It was a signal, a memory, the same gesture he had used before every mission. Awaiting command, Logan covered his face and wept, not from pain but from something he had not felt in years. Belonging, purpose. The mission was still on and Hawk was still waiting. The first change was the morning. For years Logan had ignored the sunrise, sleeping through most of the day or lying awake in darkness, refusing to care. But Hawk would not allow it. At precisely 6 a.m. every day without fail, Hawk would nudge Logan's arm. If Logan ignored him, Hawk would gently tap the side of the wheelchair with his paw. When that failed, he barked once, low, firm, commanding. Logan started getting up. At first it was just to shut the dog up, then it became routine. Hawk would sit by the door, tail thudding, leash in his mouth. Logan had not used the ramp outside in months now. Every morning they rolled down it together, Logan in his chair, Hawk just off his left wheel, walking perfectly in sync, the same position he had taken during missions. It was muscle memory for both of them. Logan noticed other changes too. If he skipped breakfast, Hawk would sit across the table from him, eyes unwavering. When Logan pushed the food away, Hawk would push it back with his nose. The message was clear: eat, survive, keep going. Something inside Logan shifted. He began attending his virtual physical therapy appointments again. Then in person he practiced lifting himself into the chair. He relearned stretches, not because he wanted to walk again, but because Hawk was watching, and for some reason he could not stand the thought of disappointing the dog who had crossed mountains to find him. Word spread around. The neighborhood children would ride by on bikes and stop at the gate, pointing and whispering, "That's the Marine and his dog." Hawk, once a ghost in fur, now sat calmly when kids asked to pet him. He let them touch his ears, even leaned into their hands, but his eyes always tracked Logan, never more than a few feet away, always between his handler and the world. At night Logan began to sleep again, until the nightmares came. Flashes of fire, screams, dust, a burning truck, the sound of bones snapping. When it happened, Logan would jolt awake, soaked in sweat, gasping for air, and always Hawk was there. He never barked, never panicked. He would climb onto the bed and press his weight gently against Logan's chest, then raise a paw and tap, soft, rhythmic, just Enough to bring him back to the present. Back to safety one day. The local veteran center invited Logan to a small gathering. He hesitated, but Hawk stood by the door that morning, tale still waiting. So they went. The room was full of men and women who had seen too much and said too little. Some were in chairs like Logan, others leaned on canes. All carried something invisible. When it was Logan's turn to speak, he froze. Then Hawk stepped forward without command. He took the handle of Logan's chair and pulled gently but firmly out to the center of the room. The room fell silent. Logan grabbed the frame of a walker nearby, breath held, arms trembling, and stood. One step, two, three. Hawk moved beside him, pacing evenly, alert as if clearing a path. Someone clapped, then another, then everyone. Logan turned toward the crowd, blinking away tears. I could not walk alone, he said quietly, but I never really had to. Hawk sat beside him, head high, watching every face. For the first time in years, Logan did not feel broken. He felt seen, and not as a crippled soldier, but as a man who had come back from the dead because someone never gave up on him. It was a crisp spring morning when it happened. Logan and Hawk had made the walk to the park like they did every Thursday. Logan pushing himself along the paved path in his wheelchair, Hawk moving in steady rhythm just off his left wheel. Ears up, tail relaxed. The routine had become sacred, predictable, healing, until it wasn't. They had reached the far end of the park trail when Logan paused to stretch his shoulders. He leaned forward slightly, and then nothing. His body slumped, arms twitching, eyes wide but unfocused. A stroke, sudden, silent, dangerous. The emergency alert device on Logan's chair flickered, struggling to connect. The signal was weak in that part of the park, and no one was nearby but Hawk was. Before the device could even emit a full warning beep, Hawk moved. He ran, not with the speed of his youth, but with the purpose of a soldier answering a call. He sprinted toward the park entrance, onto the sidewalk, and straight into traffic. Horns blared, tires screeched, but Hawk stood his ground, barking loudly, leaping toward a woman's car window and pawing at the glass. At first she panicked, but then she saw the service tag on his harness and the desperation in his eyes. She followed him. When they reached Logan, he was seizing. Paramedics arrived just minutes later. One looked at the woman and said, "You got him here in time." Another 5 minutes, and he didn't finish the sentence. At the hospital, Logan recovered slowly, painfully, but he was alive. Hawk waited outside the intensive care unit room for nearly 2 days, refusing food, refusing to lie down. Then, just as Logan was being discharged, Hawk collapsed at the doorway. His breathing was labored, his eyes still sharp, showed pain. He tried to mask. Tests confirmed what Logan feared, a large abdominal tumor pressing against vital organs. It was operable but costly, aggressive, dangerous. Logan did not hesitate. He sold his car, cleared out a savings account meant for home modifications. He saved my life more than once, he told the vet. This is not charity, it's repayment. The surgery went well, but recovery was long. Hawk moved slower now, sometimes favoring his right side. His bark was softer, but his eyes, they still burned with that unwavering resolve. Weeks later, the town held a ceremony for military and service animals. The local veterans group insisted Hawk be honored. The mayor came, so did children from nearby schools, each holding a sign that read, "Thank you, Hawk." Logan wheeled himself onto the stage, Hawk at his side. In a decorated service vest, the applause was thunderous. He took a breath, placed a hand gently on Hawk's back, and leaned into the microphone. Most people think Hawk is a dog, a tool, a helper, but they're wrong. The room quieted. He's a soldier, my brother in arms, the one who didn't just save my body but save the parts of me I thought were lost, the man I used to be, the will I had abandoned. He paused, glancing down at Hawk, and even now, while I recover, he's still watching over me, slower, maybe older, but with the same fire in his eyes. His voice cracked. Hawk is not a pet, he is a warrior. He never stopped serving, and because of him, I never stopped living. The crowd rose to their feet. Hawk stood still beside him, posture tall, chest lifted as if he knew exactly what was being said. A soldier to the very end, still on mission, still fighting for one man's soul. The afternoon Hawk passed. Logan had brought his chair out onto the porch like he always did, the wheels creaking faintly over the old boards. Hawk lay beside him in the tall grass, his gray touched fur blending into the earth, breathing slow and steady. His eyes, still sharp as ever, remained fixed on the horizon, watching as if expecting something only he could see. Logan reached down, resting a weathered hand gently on Hawk's head. "You can rest now, old boy," he said, voice quiet. "You did more than enough." Hawk didn't move, but his breathing eased, deepened, then fell still. His head remained on Logan's boot, eyes open, gaze calm, as if he had chosen to keep watch just a little longer, just in case. Logan sat with him for hours, the light fading, the air cooling, not speaking, just remembering. The next day, Logan buried Hawk beneath the large oak tree behind the cabin, the same place Hawk had loved to nap in the fall sun. He folded a small American flag and placed it beside the collar that had seen war, recovery, and something far greater, redemption. The headstone was simple, hand-carved with care. Hawk loyal beyond orders, silent till the end. No eulogy was spoken, none was needed, but the town noticed. Neighbors brought flowers, a local veteran carved a wooden eagle and placed it at the base of the tree. Children left drawings of Hawk with wings. Letters arrived from across the country, veterans, therapists, survivors, all of them saying the same thing: "Your story gave me strength." In the weeks that followed, Logan returned to the Veteran Center, not as a patient but as a guide. He trained others like him, men and women with broken bodies, invisible wounds, and fading willpower. He understood them not because of what he had studied, but because of what Hawk had taught him. He started writing at night, page after page. By spring he had a finished manuscript. The Hawk who stayed. It was not just a tribute, it was a road map for those who had lost purpose, for those searching for one reason to keep going. In the dedication he wrote to the soldier who never asked for a command, who showed up, who stayed, who stood between me and the end. "You were never just a dog, you were the reason I kept breathing." At the final page, one last line stood alone. He did not ask for a command, he just showed up. And that saved my life. If the story of Logan and Hawk moved you, you're not alone. What began with a silent knock on the door became a powerful reminder that the deepest loyalty often comes from those who cannot speak but understand everything. Hawk was not just a dog, he was a soldier, a healer, a brother who showed up, stood guard, and stayed until the very end. At Amazing Pause Stories, we honor true stories like this about second chances, unseen heroes, and the unbreakable bond between people and the animals who saved them in the quietest ways. Subscribe to Amazing Pause Stories to discover more stories of love, sacrifice, and hope that will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Click subscribe, share this story with someone who needs a little courage today. And remember, sometimes the hero is not the one who gives the command, but the one who never left your side.